Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton, August 16th, 2020 virtual service. My name is Nancy Sawyer. I'm a good friend of many of you of this beloved community. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton is a welcoming congregation. We welcome you no matter your race, your class, your gender or theological identity. You are welcome here. If you would like to know more about Unitarian Universalism or about this congregation in particular, please visit our website at UUFEaston, EASTON.org. Today we are going to be celebrating the poetry of Black Americans. I have many friends in the poetry community in the Central Valley of California. They participate in the Modesto Stanislaus Poetry Center. During the month of June, the Poetry Center published one poem by a Black poet each day of that month. And that's what inspired me to do this service. UUFE has a history of doing poetry services, and I thought it would be particularly interesting to do a poetry service that revolved around Black poets. I asked my poet friend Gillian, would it be inappropriate for a white person to read the words of a Black poet? Her response to me was, those poets have put their words and their feelings and their lives out into the world. Their voices need to be heard. I have put together some background material that you can look at after watching this service if you would like to explore these or other Black poets in more depth. If you have the financial means, I strongly encourage you to purchase the books of poetry that they have published. We light our chalice today with a poem by Jacqueline Woodson. This poem of Jacqueline's was published in her 2014 book, Brown Girl Dreaming. On paper. The first time I write my full name, Jacqueline Amanda Woodson, without anybody's help, on a clean white page in my composition notebook, I know. If I wanted to, I could write anything. Letters becoming words, words gathering meaning, becoming thoughts outside my head, becoming sentences written by Jacqueline Amanda Woodson. Our opening music is performed by Leon Bridges. His song is Sweeter. It is the tradition of this congregation to recite the covenant of this fellowship. At the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Easton, we seek to nurture spiritual and intellectual growth for all ages and to be actively involved in community outreach and service, cherishing diversity and celebrating our oneness with all humanity. We covenant to support each other in the spirit of compassion, respect, and love. Our poem for meditation is titled A Small Needful Fact by Ross Gay, published in 2015 on the website splitthisrocks.org and specifically on their page, The Quarry, a social justice poetry database. A small needful fact is that Eric Gardner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec Horticultural Department, which means, perhaps, that with his very large hands, perhaps in all likelihood, he gently put into the earth some plants, which most likely, some of them in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what plants do, like house and feed small creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Sue Browning, and it is an honor to get to lead Joys and Sorrows this morning. And before I do that, I just want to thank Nancy Sawyer. It is wonderful to have your gifts shared with the congregation today. It's just lovely. So joys and sorrows are one of the ways that we build community when we share our personal milestones and our personal joys and sorrows. During the pandemic, we do that by having you send them in to us by email by Thursday at noon, and then we will be able to include them in the service. So I'm going to go ahead and light the candles, and then I will share what they represent this morning. So we light our first candle today for the many ways we're impacted by the COVID virus, for the losses that we're aware of among us, for the recoveries, for the essential workers and that take so many different forms, and for this time of prolonged uncertainty. It's a candle we will be lighting for a while. We light our next two candles in honor of the memory of two losses that took place a year ago this week. We light a candle in honor of Ralph Young, and we extend our love to Mary, and we light a candle in honor of Ken Court. And Maggie, we hold you in our care, in our love. It's amazing, it's been a year. And the final candle today is for Liz Parks. Hopefully folks saw in the e-newsletter that Liz is extending her search for a kidney even further. She's taken out an ad in the newspaper. She continues to do well. Her numbers are stable. She appreciates everyone's concern. And it's a candle of hope that the message will be passed on and that at some place there'll be the right connection to find a kidney donor. So we hold you, Liz, in our hopes and cares as you and Steve move through this part of your life. So I ask us to take a moment in silence as we hold what we've heard and what remains in your hearts. for the many ways we build community, for the many ways we care for one another. We are grateful. Amen and blessed be.
Hi, UU members and friends. Today we pass the virtual plate in collection of donations for UUFE. Additionally, we ask that people please remember their pledges that have been made over recent months to UUFE. Your ongoing financial support is essential to help our congregation as we serve in support of one another and our local community and work towards social justice not only here on the Eastern Shore but far beyond as well, during this time when social justice work is as important as ever. Please refer to our UUFE website for how to either mail your plate donation or pledge payment or how to make it online. Thank you.
The body of our service will be made up of 6 poems. 5 of the poems are recordings of poets reading their own work. I just sort of felt like it was best if they read their own work, if I could find the recordings. One of the poems I will read to you because it is so recent that I could not find a recording, but I really loved the poem. I chose these poems because I thought each of the poems communicated a little bit of a different emotion or a different experience. And since poetry, like music, is a very personal experience, I'll try to do a minimal amount of introduction and commentary for each poem. We will start out with Maya Angelou. Then we will have a poem by Langston Hughes. I will read a poem by Patricia Smith. Then you will hear Gwendolyn Brooks, Angelo Jeter, and our last poet reading will be Denez Smith. Our first recording is of Maya Angelou reciting a poem that is a combination of a poem written by Paul Laurence Dunbar entitled We Wear the Mask, with a poem of her own entitled Old Black Men. For those of you not familiar with Paul Laurence Dunbar, the Poetry Foundation regards him as, quote, America's first great Black poet. He was born in 1872, and he published his poetry and novels around the turn of the century. Enjoy.
I have written a poem for a woman who rides a bus in New York City. She's a maid. She has 2 shopping bags. When the bus stops abruptly, she laughs. If the bus stops slowly, she laughs. If the bus picks up someone, she laughs. If the bus misses someone, she... So I watched her for about 9 months. I thought, Now, if you don't know black features, you may think she's laughing. But she wasn't laughing. She was simply extending her lips and making a sound. I said, oh, I see. That's that survival apparatus. Now, let me write about that to honor this woman who helps us to survive. By her very survival, Miss Rosie, through your destruction I stand up. So I used the poem with Mr. Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, Masks, and my own poem for old black men. Mr. Dunbar wrote Masks in 1892. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It shades our cheeks and hides our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding heart, we smile and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs, and they let them only see us while we wear the mask? We smile, but oh my God, our tears to thee from tortured souls arise, and we sing, hey, baby, we sing, hey, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet, and long the mile. But let the world think otherwise. We wear the mask. When I think about myself, I almost laugh myself to death. My life has been one great big joke, a dance that's walked, a song was spoke. I laugh so hard, I almost choke when I think about myself. 70 years in these folks' world. The child I works for calls me girl. I say, yes, ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break. So I laugh until my stomach ache when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laugh so hard, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but eat the rind. I laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself and my folks and the little children. My fathers sit on benches. Their flesh count every plank. The slats leave dents of darkness deep in their withered flank, and they nod like broken candles, all waxed and burnt profound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round. There in those pleated faces, I see the auction block, the chains and slavery's coffles, the whip and lash and stock. My fathers speak in voices that shred my fact and sound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission, and that made your world go round. They laughed to shield their crying. They shuffled through their dreams. They stepped and fetched a country and wrote the blues in screams. I understand their meaning. It could and did derive from living on the ledge of death. They kept my race alive by wearing the mask.
I grew up 872 miles from here in a state called Alabama. People often ask me, what do you miss about Alabama? And there are 3 things that I miss. I miss my mother. And she's here. I miss the music, which is amazing. And I miss something that some of you have probably never seen, you probably never witnessed, or you haven't even had the chance to witness. So today I'm going to describe it to you as best as I can, okay? See, when I get to be a composer, I'm going to write me some music about daybreak in Alabama. It is one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. Like swamp mist rising out of the ground and natural dew falling from heaven. I'm gonna put some tall trees in it. And the scent of pine needles and the smell of fresh red clay after rain. I'm gonna put some long red necks, some poppy colored faces, some big brown arms, and the field daisy eyes of black, white, black, white, black, black, white, black, white, 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 black, black, and black, white people. I'm gonna put some black hands in it, some white hands, some brown hands, and some yellow hands in it, and some red clay earth hands in it too. Touching every single one with kindness, and everyone touching each other as natural as dew. On that dawn of my music, when I get to be the composer and write about daybreak in Alabama. Thank you.
The Stuff of Astounding, a poem for Juneteenth by Patricia Smith, was first published in the New York Times just this past June, on June 19th. If you read the last word of each line of the poem, it reads, "Unless we are intent on ripping the world from its roots in the sky, we live with these truths. That black breath is gospel. The black voice will not be silent. The black body is free. And black lives matter." The Stuff of Astounding. Unless you spring from a history that is smug and reckless, unless you vowed yourself blind to a ceaseless light, you see us. We are a shade-shined toddler writhing through Sunday sermon. We are the grizzled elder gingerly unfolding his last body, and we are intent and insistent upon the human in ourselves. We are the doctor on another day at the edge of reason, coaxing a wrong hope, ripping open a gasping body to find air. We are 5 men dripping from the burly branches of young trees, which is to say that we dare a world that is both predictable and impossible. What else can we learn from suicides of the cuffed? The soft targets of black backs be stuck in its rhythmic unreal. Time keeps including us, even as our aged root is doggedly plucked and trampled, cursed by ham-fisted spitters in the throes of a particular fever. See how we push on as an enigma, the free out loud, the audaciously unleashed, how slyly we scan the sky. All that wet voltage and scatters a furious star to realize that we are the recipients of an ancient grace. No, we didn't begin to live when on the 19th day of June of that awkward ordinary spring, with no joy in a monotone still flecked with deceit. Seems you and these others are free. That moment did not begin our breath. Our truths, the ones we've been birthed with, had already met reckoning in the fields as we muttered tangled nouns of home. We reveled in black from there to now, our rampant hue and nap, the unbridled breath that resides in the rafters. From then to here, everything we are is the stuff of astounding. We are a mother who hums snippets of gospel in the silk curls of her newborn. We are the harried sister on the elevator to the weekly paycheck Mama dreamed for her. We are black in everywhere there is, perm and kink, upstart and elder, wide voice, fervent whisper. We heft our clumsy homemade placards. We will curl small in the gloom, weeping to old blues ballads. We swear not to be anybody else's idea of free, lining up precisely, waiting to be freed again and again. We are breach and bellow, resisting a silent consent as we claim our much of America, its burden and snarl, the stink and hallelujah of it, its sicknesses of safe words, and its black and otherwise. Only those feigning blindness fail to see the body of work we are, the work of body we have done. Everything is what it is because of us. It is misunderstanding to believe that free fell upon us like a blessing. It was granted by a signature and an abruptly opened door. Listen to the thousand ways to say black out loud. Hear a whole people celebrate their free and fragile lives. Then find your own place inside that song. Make the singing matter.
A song in the front yard. I've stayed in the front yard all my life. I want to peek at the back, where it's rough and untended and hungry weed grows. A girl gets sick of a rose. I want to go in the backyard now, and maybe down the alley, to where the charity children play. I want a good time today. They do some wonderful things. They have some wonderful fun. My mother sneers, but I say it's fine, how they don't have to go in at 8:45. My mother, she tells me that Johnny May will grow up to be a bad woman, that George will be taken to jail soon or late. On account of last winter, he sold our back gate. But I say it's fine, honest I do, and I'd like to be a bad woman too, and wear the brave stockings of night black lace, and strut down the streets with paint on my face.
This is Angelo Jeter reading the poem entitled Praise. Today I will praise. I will praise the sun for showering its light on this darkened vessel. I will praise its shine. Praise the way it wraps my skin in ultraviolet ultimatums demanding to be seen. I will lift my hands in adoration of how something so bright could be so heavy. I will praise the ground that did not make feast of these bones. Praise the casket that did not become a shelter for flesh. Praise the bullets that called in sick to work. Praise the trigger that went on vacation. Praise the chalk that did not outline a body today. Praise the body for still being a body and not a headstone. Praise the body for being a body and not a police report. Praise the body for being a body and not a memory no one wants to forget. Praise the memories. Praise the laughs and smiles you thought had been evicted from your jawline. Praise the eyes for seeing and still believing, for being blinded from faith but never losing their vision. Praise the visions. Praise the prophets who don't profit off of those visions. Praise the hearts for housing this living room of emotions. Praise the trophy that is my name. Praise the gift that is my name. Praise the name that is my name, which no one can plagiarize or gentrify. Praise the praise. How the throat sounds like a choir. The harmony in your tongue lifts into a song of adoration. Praise yourself for being able to praise, for waking up when you had every reason not to. About this poem, I wrote this poem about 6 months ago. It was around Christmas time, and I was just in the midst of mourning and grieving some loved ones. And when I was walking, I remember feeling that in the midst of hard times and as negative this world can seem at times, you still have to praise things. And so this poem focuses on praising the things that you should praise and also praising the things that you shouldn't, such as being a headstone or not being in a police report. And so that was the inspiration behind this poem, praising in the midst of all this chaos.
This poem is about trees. It's called Trees. Look, y'all, they look like slow green explosions, thick as the best fro in the clique, a clique of them, a whole hood of soft jade, a stadium of limes, how they look, gathered at the roots and at the leaves. Woo! I'm a little bit beside myself. Driving through Mississippi with Tish, who is indeed a part of myself, she say, I wish we could take a picture of all this green, but it's raining, so we can't photograph these perfect emerald lungs, these giant and ancient niggas. They must be niggas, right? How brown and giving they are. Their fruit, cousin to our hands, their flowers, our songs. I wonder if I went like a year without lotion, if my skin would dry into bark, if my naps would drink the light as my toes grew wild and twisted with thirst. Do you think that's how the first trees were invented? A bunch of niggas standing still in a field waiting for a sign from an old god, their breath a prayer until all they could do was breathe. Oh, if I could be a tree. Oh. If I could be a tree, there'd be a heart knife into me that read, I heart all my niggas. Oh, if I could stand still in a field with Tish and Josh and Nate and Jamila and Aaron and Brittany and Cam and Blair and De'Allen and Krista and Kamia and Tahira and all the niggas who burst my heart with their bright seeds. Oh, I would be the happiest tree. I will let all the birds live in me, grateful to breathe in that constellation of bright green budding stars. Oh my God, of Negroes and foliage, roots and roots and roots. Here we are, black and ashy and filtering air, ready to be the forest. Deliver us into your axis word. We, sweet mother of melanin and chlorophyll, branch and braid, dogwood and all my dogs. Here we are, ready to be evergreen. We see your promise in the noon star, hear your word in the rain.
So that's the end of our poetry reading for today. I hope you've enjoyed the selections that we chose, especially Dana Smith's poem, The Tree. I will never look at a tree again. I absolutely loved that poem. I hope these selections have piqued your interest enough that you will invest in the art of Black writers. We will close today with a quote from Langston Hughes. Poetry possesses the power of worryation. Poetry can both delight and disturb. It can interest folks, it can upset folks. Poetry can convey both pleasure and pain, and poetry can make people think. If poetry makes people think, it might make them think constructive thoughts, even thoughts about how to change themselves, their town, and their state for the better. Some poems, like many of the great verses of the Bible, can make people think about changing all mankind, even the whole world. Poems, like prayers, possess power. Our closing hymn, Lift Every Voice and Sing, many of you are familiar with as the Black National Anthem. What many of you may not know is that it actually started out as a poem. It was written by James Weldon Johnson, who was an American educator, lawyer, and activist, and he happened to be friends with Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poet who Maya Angelou read. 500 Black students at the Stanton School in Jacksonville, Florida, where James Johnson was a principal, recited the poem to mark Abraham Lincoln's birthday before it was set to music. Take the flame with you, and peace be in your heart.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, built in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place, come to our Father's side. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary ears, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought